that, it's Kirioth. But before we get into that, if you enjoyed today's episode and maybe you want to support the podcast, head over to patreon.com/Adeptus Ridiculous, where you can get access to the Discord, bloopers if they happen. $15 tier gets you access to all of our posters in crispy digital HD format. It's great. Patreon.com/Adeptus Ridiculous. Bricky.
Oh, it's me. I'm the guy who's the brick man. I'm here with people.
Wow.
Welcome to the episode. Go buy merch at orchidate.com and the links below. There's a lot of it now. I'm stuck in the mines. Please save me or keep me there. It's okay. I'm okay with both.
Let's go.
Go buy the stuff. Let's go. And check out our sponsor, Honey. I'm kidding.
Oh, wow. Oh, my God. Just for a second there, I was like, boy, that's...
Yeah, for a second I was like, oh, no, Bricky, no, you didn't.
I'm gonna make the two of you dehydrate with how much you're gonna sweat.
I was like, oh, no, God, we're over.
That video got so many views so fast. I was like, oh, the weird honey issue. Cool. I looked at it. It's like 10 million views in 2 days. I'm like, oh, my God.
Yep.
I haven't seen that since Every Faction Explained.
Boom, let's go.
But anyway, Kirioth, I love Warhammer.
What?
I had no idea, but it's good to know. It's, we've got there in the end. Okay, look, this one's going to be tricky. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to present you with some information, and with that information, DK is going to have to guess what it is that we're talking about. All right?
Because apparently Bricky knows what we're talking about.
It would be unfair. It would be an unfair advantage to throw it out to both of you because otherwise there would be no point doing it at all.
Okay, cool.
For centuries, humanity has been under attack by never-ending waves of enemies. Horrors beyond mortal comprehension, demonic forces and traitors seek to dominate mankind through killing, pain, and suffering. Above all, these enemies are seeking to topple a single throne. To combat these dark forces, the greatest minds of man have created monstrosities of their own, be they metal and engine or hulking warriors once human themselves. Across a vast front, filled with fortresses and emplacements, artillery screams overhead, blood runs in rivers, and combatants die in droves while assassins and hunters stalk their prey behind enemy lines. What are we talking about, DK?
Sounds like this is just a general Imperium chicanery episode about all of their cool stuff that they use, I guess.
That's fair. It definitely does sound like that. Intentionally so. What about an additional hint? If I give you a definitive year that we're in.
I'm not sure that would really help. I mean, you could try. I don't really know the specific, this happened in 32,000 before Emperor's death. I don't.
Okay, that actually helps though, because I think this will narrow it down way more than that. The year is 1914.
What? 1914?
Yep.
What was going on in the world in 1914, DK?
I'm not entirely sure at the moment.
Okay, let's go back to history. Let's go back to history
class. I didn't do
class.
particularly well in history. I don't know. I probably know the event, but I don't know what year it happened in.
He was born.
He was born in 1914.
I probably know the event, but I don't know what happened in 1914. Just tell me.
DK, what happened in 1945?
Nothing good.
Exactly. What happened in 1914?
Oh, Nothing Good Part 1?
All right. Okay. We're getting there.
Nothing Good Part 1. Let's go.
Nothing Good Part 1 is.
And do you know what happened in 1919? The worst part of it all.
What?
Women's suffrage.
Wow. Wow.
Sorry.
You really are committed to make us sweat as much as possible for this one, aren't you?
This has been a shocktacular morning. My heart cannot take this constant battery, Bricky, please.
It was
please.
Hey, it's when they passed the ninth. See, I remember it because in history class it was 1919, but it was also the 19th Amendment, which was granting the women the right to vote.
Oh, hey, if I had a good history teacher that could have connected those dots, that I would have remembered it too.
Honestly, I don't think a history teacher's anything to do with you not remembering World War One.
I remembered it.
World War One with the trenches.
I remembered it. I just didn't remember the year. All right, I knew it happened.
In fact, there's a lot of trenches involved in this, isn't there, Kirioth?
Yeah, you could say it's pretty trench heavy. There's definitely some trench action going on.
That makes me think.
Is there like a biblical aspect to this, perchance?
It's funny. I did specifically say demonic forces. I kind of highlighted that a little bit. Yeah.
But you said enemy forces and demonic forces. You didn't specifically say
you can't
demonic
front load it
forces.
with demonic though. You can't front load it. I said horrors beyond mortal comprehension, demonic forces, and traitors.
Clearly, this is a historical DKL. Can we just... What the fuck are we doing?
We're talking about Trench Crusade.
Happy New Year! The first episode is not even Warhammer related.
Yeah.
Let's go.
I genuinely forgot Trench Crusade was a thing.
Well, it is relatively recent, in fairness.
Yeah, it is. It's massively growing in popularity, day after day, and the Kickstarter they did was insanely, hilariously successful. But it is still relatively new, and it has been building up for quite some time. So today we're not going to get too deep in there, because frankly there is enough to Trench Crusade to do multiple episodes, and just focusing on a single faction would probably be an entire episode in and of itself. So instead, we're going to talk about the general timeline, the different forces involved. We're going to give an example of a few of the more kind of out there, and I say more out there and fun units. Pretty much everything in the game is out there and fun, but we're going to go into how awful and kind of cool the whole thing is. And then maybe in future we can go back and, go into more detail on things like the Trench Pilgrims faction or the Heretic Legion or the Cult of the Black Grail. There's lots of very cool names in here.
Man, if I had remembered Trench Crusade was a thing, the World War clues would have been a great clue for it too. God, man.
I would like
feel
to
extra stupid now.
I would like to make a statement and say that as of recently, I left Texas. I was in Austin for a little bit, and I was at a party, and where I was talking a lot of Trench Crusade with the person there because they've been playing it a lot, and I learned a little bit about some of the mechanics, and they seemed very cool. And honestly, maybe it's the build crafting part of me, but when I heard about that, I was like, "Ooh, I'm a little more interested now. This is I'm curious."
Okay, so Trench Crusade basically is the new hip Kickstarter tabletop game that everybody kind of wants to learn. Very kind of 40K adjacent with the minis and the gameplay style and the heretics and all that.
It's kind of alternate historical religious fiction, I guess. I'm not sure how else to really phrase it. It's known for a very distinct art style, which is due to the lead artist Mike Franchina, who has done work for Blizzard and EA and a whole bunch of other companies. If you've seen something gross and horrible looking in a Blizzard game, there's a good chance that he did some sort of concept art for it. And he started building up Trench Crusade on the side as kind of like a personal passion project with a series of different images and kind of art pieces and so on. And the actual gameplay itself is being headed up by Tuomas Pirinen, who is one of the writers for Mordheim, which is one of the reasons that the rules are as satisfying as they are. Mordheim being, generally accepted as one of the best Games Workshop games that was ever produced. And effectively, Trench Crusade, it's the tale of the poor mortals of Earth being absolutely demolished by demonic forces from hell and having to fight back. It's kind of alternate World War I, but with some notable outliers in terms of technology, and it's super grimdark. It's really, really grimdark in the best way.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say the art that's being posted right now is wow, like that priest with the gas mask and the cat o' nine tails and the crucifixion of Jesus shield with the hands pinned to it is like, brother, Like that art
Yeah.
is serving. Holy.
I was going to
God.
say, it's like, I mean, you wouldn't really call it like dark fantasy, so to speak, though it kind of is that. It's more, there's like a term for, obviously it's alternate history, but it is very much like, I mean, people who like Warhammer often like this because Warhammer has a lot of dark religious Catholic motifs, among others. And I mean, look at this. Like, I mean,
Ooh.
like, look at this, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's damn. Like the art for this is crazy. Also,
It's
does that
super-
soldier have a fetus with a pentagram on its head, barbed wired to his belt?
Well, yeah, pretty much, yeah. The actual purpose of that, not sure of yet. One of the things that is kind of fun and cool about a setting being this young, I guess, is a lot of the details haven't been filled out. So there is a lot of stuff that either shows up in artwork or is stated but not actually expanded on, and they've already said a couple of times where it's like, there are some things that we're probably just not going to explain. It'll be there, but what it means, that's something that you'll have to work out yourself, which is one of the big draws of Warhammer is the mystery side of things, especially with 40k, like the Lost Primarchs and all that sort of thing. You know, the origins of certain chapters, and Trench Crusade has got quite a lot of that going on, which we will we'll highlight a few fun things as we go through. Oh yes, bit of scripture armor. So good.
They copied us.
Man, I am such a weeb. His shoulder arm with the little like right angle on it. The first thing you think of, he's a Zaku.
It does look like the samurai kind of like the wooden thing, isn't it?
No,
Wait.
I thought he looked like a Zaku from Gundam. It has the exact same arm plate.
Oh, I was thinking more like, you know how like samurai have like the flat wooden like shoulder pads.
Oh,
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh well, now I feel foolish.
Yeah. Well, I didn't remember what year World War I was, so you're fine.
That's fair.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
That's
Kind of looks like a
as
windmill on
trades
his
go, it's
back,
not
though.
too
I'm
bad.
not sure why I immediately thought that. I was like, man, it's Windmill Man.
Yeah, he uses the crucifix. He flies with it. He goes,
Yeah.
He's a helicopter.
aerial reconnaissance. That's how that works. Okay, so I did the kind of like making it sound like Warhammer, even though it's not actually Warhammer intro. There is a proper kind of official introduction to Trench Crusade, which is part of the lore primer, which you can go to their website and download for free, which is awesome. Along with the playtesting rules as well, which are also completely free. So it's worth checking those out. Pretty much all in any of the art that's going to show up as we're talking will be from it's pretty much all from their official stuff because they've got so much good art. So the actual kind of start of the Trench Crusade, the lore primer itself. During the First Crusade, the armies of the Church captured the Holy City. Under the most holy of temples, the Knights Templar discovered secret vaults and within them an ancient demonic artifact. The Templars, blinded by greed and with weakness in their hearts, fell to their knees. They had found a new lord. Seeing the unholy wisdom of which the artifact spoke, they began trafficking with devils and committing all manner of unspeakable rites. This was the first heresy. The armies of the Church retreated, and Jerusalem became a depraved pit where hell and our mortal plane now bleed into one. For 8 centuries, the Church has waged its crusade to take back the Holy City. The landscape has been utterly devastated, crisscrossed with thousands of miles of mud, trenches, and craters. The crusade is now waged with armies wielding terrifying weaponry, and both sides conjure up supernatural beings of such immense power they are nigh unstoppable. Even with such incalculable might, the armies are at a stalemate. This is the Trench Crusade. So that's the start of the lore primer. Pretty good.
Yeah. Because isn't historically Jerusalem been kind of a holy war kind of place that every different religion is fighting for? So
yeah, there's been a few disagreements over the years regarding who should
should be in Jerusalem. Yeah.
There's been a bit of that.
Kind of interesting
love
take on the. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I love technically correct statements. Like, yeah, that's right. There were a few of them, definitely.
Just a couple. Yep. So it's kind of interesting to see like a different sort of demonic take on like the battle for Jerusalem, right? That's kind of cool.
It's super heavy on religious imagery. There's a lot of phrases and stuff within the primer and within like the unit stats and things. There's a lot of stuff that is just directly, when I say taken from Christianity or Catholicism, it goes above like the surface level. So I grew up extremely religious, mostly against my will, and there are little things, there's little statements, there's the names of things amongst the lore that's been put out so far that very much feels like either someone grew up in a similar environment who was writing this, or is very good at doing their research, because there are little things that just stand out as like, oh, you can look that up and that is a distinct actual name for that specific thing. Why would you know that unless you were involved in some way? That sort of thing. Like, it's very, very like detail oriented in some areas to really hammer home just how heavy it is on the Catholicism angle. But it's also nice and vague in other areas to just leave it open to interpretation as to what even happened here. We don't know. We have no idea, and we're not going to explain it.
Okay, cool.
I like that. Those are my favorite. Those are my favorite kinds of things. Are the ones where it's like, I don't know what happened, and explaining it is not what's important.
Yes,
that it happened is important.
Exactly.
Yep. Exactly. So there is an official timeline, which we're going to pick a few things out of. The official timeline says at the top, biased and likely inaccurate, so keep that in mind. I like that that's just actually in the document. Yeah. Again, feels very sort of, some of this might be just outright propaganda, but we're not going to say which bits, so good luck. I love that piece of art. The shell in the shrine with all the crosses and crucifixes and stuff over the side. Yeah, it's so good.
Oh, yeah, that is really good. Holy.
Okay, the fact it's so, I mean, this is giving me real Boss Baby vibes, right? But it's just the gigantic shell. It's so peak. Like I mean, assume they bless their weapons and stuff. I assume, yeah.
Oh, there's all sorts of that kind of thing going on.
It's got to be like religious, very like worshiping the weapon with the Holy Spirit's image on it, right?
There's things like sacrificing a lamb and painting the blood onto armor to ward off demonic missiles and the like.
Didn't the Grey Knights do something like that one time?
Yeah, they did a stupid.
Kind of sounds like something they would do.
Of battle. Yeah.
No, Kirioth gets the reference. DK doesn't, but he doesn't need to know today. We'll talk about that. I mean,
all
day.
I'm saying is it sounds like something the Grey Knights would absolutely do.
Yeah,
right? That sounds like something a Grey Knight would do.
It's also what a demon of Khorne would do.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep. For sure. Yeah. Also, man, I get whiplash every time you're like, man, this is giving Boss Baby energy. I'm like, oh, what? And then I'm like, oh, right, it's the okay. God.
Yeah, it's the damn. This is giving me real Warhammer vibes. Like guy who only ever sees Warhammer stuff.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so we've got the kind of the foundation, the fact that in 1099, to be exact, the First Crusade captures Jerusalem, the Knights Templar commit the act of ultimate heresy, and now it's a yawning pit where hell and earth combine. Obviously, quite a bad start to the 1100s. That not ideal. Demonic forces just wading out onto Earth and attacking anything and everything, which means that within 2 years, we have the Year of 3 battles, where heretics from the third circle of hell conquer most of the Levant. So it starts out bad. Really, really bad.
Yeah, not ideal is an understatement, but go on.
What is that thing? What the hell is that, Kirioth? What in God's name? Literally?
Yeah, what in the devil's name is that?
So that
it's got 4 boobs.
Hegemon. There is a couple of pieces of art where I have looked at what they are, and they're not massively specific. And I think that's one of them. But that is one of the like demonic entities that is carrying huge stone tablets and kind of just leading the lads. As you do, there's a couple of really, really big monstrosities, but by and large, Trench Crusade is a skirmish game based around warbands. So a lot of them aren't actually. There's a few things of like massive scale. There's that guy. There's also a hegemon of the Black Grail, which is massive. I think it said it was like 17 to 18 feet tall.
Whoa!
Which that is basically a combination of diseased bodies that have been left for long enough that they have formed into this colossal creature. And
in all that armor, it's just like dead, diseased bodies that were just hanging around
armors
too long.
itself. It's this big amalgam of awful. It's great.
Oh,
it's fantastic.
sick.
But
the one reborn.
It's so good. So yeah. So this is a mild tangent, but that particular guy, the hegemon, it's part of the Black Grail, which is one of the factions within the game and the setting. You've got the Heretic Legion, you've got the Trench Pilgrims, the Iron Sultanate, New Antioch, the Cult of the Black Grail, and the Court of the Seven-Headed Serpent. So at the moment, there's a kind of an even mix of like the forces of God, effectively, and the forces of hell. And that specifically is a Black Grail unit, which is awful because it is effectively the result of a plague that just spreads. It spreads out. Eventually, enough living things become tainted. And so the Black Grail, the various creatures and demons of the Black Grail, like swarm into one place where they have a nice chant, they have a nice sing together, they call out to Beelzebub, their demon lord, and eventually, after some thousands or maybe even millions of people sacrificed, the bodies are cut open, the entrails are just arranged into sigils, the air becomes thick with flies, they coalesce into symbols, there are horrible abscesses in the sky, and diseased blood come out of them, hit the earth, and the servants of the Black Grail, they all sort of march into the center of it, and they meld together into a gigantic, diseased, putrid creature.
Sheesh.
And it leaves that. And in fact, I got the mistake with the Plague Knight.
Death Guard, huh?
Yes, I got it confused with the Plague Knight. That's my fault. It's actually 100 foot tall, not 18 to 19. That's my bad.
Oof.
So it's way
how
worse
dare you.
than I initially said.
Apologize immediately now, Kyrios. How dare you?
So much worse than I initially made it out to be. There's a few like big chunky ones. The hegemon is up there. It's definitely up there. Funnily enough, one of them was defeated by Saint Joan of Arc in 1429.
That's really funny.
Okay.
Wait,
From the inside out. Mm-hmm.
Hold on. Saint Joan of Arc?
Yes, living saint.
I was going to ask. Well, is there a picture of living Saint Joan of Arc in?
I don't believe there's one of her yet. I'm sure there will be at some point.
Also, can I just say that sound like the art of that thing looks really cool, right? But with how disgusting the ritual is, it's almost a shame that it's so armored. Like, I feel like it should have like spots where there's no armor and there's just gore dripping out of it, and it just looks putrid and disgusting in some spots. Because it's kind of just rusted metal, right?
You want more gross.
Yeah, like I feel like there should be, like, you know how an obliterator has like the flesh bulging out of the seams.
Yes,
I feel like I can't quite tell that this thing is made of diseased corpses. I want like something to show that a little bit more, like dripping, or like, you know, or like the face is all, you know, something like that. I want something that's like in there, even though it looks really cool.
It does. It looks really cool, but like if you just showed me the picture, I couldn't tell that it was like just diseased flesh.
Shy, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, what is that? What the fuck is that thing?
What is this Crimson Court Darkest Dungeon 1 looking ass shit?
So that would be a fly thrall or a herald of Beelzebub.
That's the thrall.
A herald of Beelzebub, that one. Yeah, that's the herald. The thralls are more like people, but kind of, man, I don't know how to describe this. It's
icky.
That's a Grail / fly thrall. That fella there with the two flies attached to him.
Oh Lord!
And the herald is the horrible floating gang, like bloated gun-toting fly.
That's so gross.
Yeah, that's also a hound. You've got a hound of the Black Grail there as well. Like, if you want super gross, you can get it. You can get it from the Trench Crusade.
Yep. Yeah, Shine, that'll do. That'll do it.
This is so up my alley. This is so cool. Wait, so okay. I know this question is a dumb question, Curious, but I have to ask: what do the quote good guys look like?
Oh, the good guys look as you would expect a good guy to look. All right, they're fine. This is the communicant. All right, that's the communicant.
Fuck you, man. My flail has a bell on it, so you can hear the chimes of God when you self-flagellate yourself.
Holy shit!
Okay, so. Okay,
all right. I may have, I threw one in there that wasn't necessarily all that normal. There is also the Trench Pilgrim, which is one of the most iconic pieces of art that I think is responsible for a lot of the kind of reaction to it, is seeing like this sort of thing early on. So the Trench Pilgrims look relatively normal, kind of. But yeah, I mean, hell comes at you with stuff like the Black Grail and the Court of the Seven-Headed Serpent. You've got to do something to fight back, right? So you've got to make stuff that is capable of going toe to toe, and that's where things like the communicant come in, where the communicant starts out as a normal person, but they consume the flesh and blood of a meta Christ, which makes them grow and bulk up.
No, listen, it's the Metachrist, okay? And until the Metachrist gets nerfed, you're gonna have to play the Metachrist to get to Diamond.
Meta this, meta that. Have you ever met a Christ?
Also, I love how we have the dude on the loudhailer reading
the
scripture and just like get in there, all of you.
Yep. It's good. So I'll just because I wanted to make sure that we got this in at some point anyway, and the Metachrist has come up fairly early. The Metachrist, there are multiple of them, and at the moment it would very much appear that the Metachrist is clones of Jesus. So we know that there's at least 7, because there are different orders that kind of follow the practices of different Metachrists. So we know that the Stigmatic nuns follow they're like the order of the 3rd Metachrist. They really revere the 3rd Metachrist. And there's also a 7th Metachrist that's actually properly mentioned and referenced. What form they take outside of being awful, like imperfect, mangled clones? I mean, this is a direct quote from the communicant. So the guy with the big cross nailed to his face. It is nailed to his face, by the way. It's nailed into their eye sockets directly.
Oh, all right.
So
cool.
Just
Yummers.
it's just so that they've got a nice bit of protection for the phase there. So the Metachrist did cut its flesh and gave it to the disciples. Its ruined mouth could not form the words, but it grunted noises that the Mentalist monk translated as, "Take, eat, this is my body." And the Metachrist did leak blood from its eyes and mouth, which the Mentalist monk caught in a chalice, once again translating the Metachrist's painful noises, "Drink ye all of it." So
this is a very literal body of Christ.
Yes.
Eat the cracker, drink the wine, except it is actually his flesh. It is actually his blood.
But it's a clone of Christ, not Christ himself. Do
the clones have like defects, for example?
Well, there's not a huge amount of reference to them at this point. That's kind of one of the most significant bits that you get in terms of what they are. But I mean, its ruined mouth could not form the words, but it grunted noises. That to me suggests it's not in a good state.
It's malformed.
It's not doing well.
It's not good. It's not a good clone. Yeah. Also, in that little pilgrimage image, I love that little pop of red on the dude's little like pauldron thing.
Yeah.
Because everything else is such a dreary color, and then they're just like, oh look, it's the image of, I'm assuming, a Jesus clone. And that's really cool.
Okay.
Sorry. Anyway.
No, you're right. No, I agree. That is really, really cool. That red bit's really cool. That being said, arguably my favorite image so far is currently Tall Boy with big gun. And I also surf with magazine the size of his chest.
Yep.
Please describe to me big man with big gun.
So
And also I gotta make this clear. Scripture flesh and ammunition belt tabard. Okay.
So Rockstar.
it's pretty good at it. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
So that is another communicant. That is a communicant anti-tank hunter. And kind of does what it says on the tin. You've got a big tall boy with a lot of hidden strength, capable of firing a gun designed to penetrate armor. And he's got with him his little ammo surf there to keep him stocked up as he stalks the battlefield looking like that. It's so good. It's another one of the ones that have eaten the body and drunk the blood of a meta Christ and has been transformed into something capable of carrying a gun kind of bigger than he is. And he's already pretty damn big.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Is that how you get these big communicant? Whatever.
Communicant.
These are the ones that have specifically eaten and drank the body and blood of Christ, and they become like super soldiers.
Yes, they get all roided up by clone Jesus bits, which is
sick,
amazing.
Fucking metal, bruv.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Kirioth, listen, I decided to go online and download the rules for Trench Crusade because I was curious about like what big man with big gun does. And as far as I'm concerned, all right. So as far as I'm concerned, this looks pretty cool. Some really neat stuff here, but it does kind of provide me a little bit of like, history nerd jerk off material that can sometimes gather a fan base of particular weirdos. You know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Kira, have you ever like gone online to find like an alternate sculpt for a model and you find like new Sisters of Battle sculpt and they have like giant Bahangas? Explain to me the Stigmatic nuns right this instant.
Stigmatic nuns?
Oh, you want to go straight in with the Stigmatic nuns? Okay.
Explain.
Okay.
I was scrolling down on the rule book and I saw this and I'm expecting an explanation immediately.
I need to see this. What is a Stigmatic nun? Tell me.
So effectively, when it comes to the Trench Pilgrims, and the Stigmatic nuns are part of that force, the Trench Pilgrims are essentially normal people from around the world. They are believers in God. They are faithful, and they will start to have visions, and revelations will be made to them, and they will be touched by heaven, and they will feel the need to go and fight on the front lines against the demonic forces. And there's the Stigmatic nuns, who are sisters of a holy order who are marked by stigmata, so they get the holes in the hands and the feet from the nails through the palms and stuff of Jesus when crucified. Sure. And they go out and they fight. They fight very well. They're extremely efficient, extremely good killers, the Stigmatic nuns. I have yet to see specifically anything that suggests or answers as to why they don't wear most of their armor. I'll be honest.
I was about to ask, why even bother with the helmet and the armor? Like at that point,
I'm not 100% on that.
Why bother with the leg armor either? Like, what,
Kirioth, their titties are out. Kirioth, their titties are out.
They are.
Their blood-drenched titties are out. This is giving me like Penitent Engine old school fan art vibes.
Yeah, it's so that no one needs to. It's just so that no one needs to, sculpt an alternate one. The official one looks like that, so it's whatever. You don't need to bother. I genuinely don't know. It's mostly, I think, stylistic more than anything, to be honest.
So far, I've rolled through the entirety of the rule book to look at all the pictures so far, the playtest rules, and everything here to me is great, and that's the only one that really throwed me. Especially because the combat medic looks so cool. The nun medic lady.
Yes. Yeah.
That one.
it's
Way
an
better.
odd standout for me as well, to be honest. It's like it does kind of fit with the rest of it, but there's just that element of, hardly anyone else is got them out. So
looks like that. Yeah.
what's going on there? But
it's the only one that's kind of just not. It doesn't fit as much, even though like it does fit, but it doesn't fit.
I know what you mean.
She's too clean.
Too clean everywhere, but where the blood is, and everything else is like, I don't want to say the word untouched, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, she's got an insane skincare routine while everyone else has a fetus attached to their hip. Like, like it's off. It's thrown off. It's throwing me off.
That might be one of my favorite
she
things.
She uses that serum, the face mask, like,
It was throwing me
turns
off.
out heretic blood, super good for the skin. Really good for the skin. Just, keeps it hydrated, keeps it nice. Okay, we immediately got heavily diverted because I was going to just go through a few notable events in between the 1099 explosion of Jerusalem into hell and then up to the current day of 1914. So, I mean, at this point, though, I'm pretty sure anyone who started this video and was like, those look really cool, you're already invested. So the details of the in-between, but there's a few notable things. So the first is that there is a city called Antioch. Technically, there's been a couple of cities called Antioch. So Antioch was fortified and became the kind of the point at which the resistance against hell was solidified. That held for a long time. Antioch held for over 400 years, but then something bad happened. So in 1545, it was destroyed. The city was just completely annihilated by a mysterious weapon.
Oh.
So the main point of defense was gone.
Okay.
Quite bad, quite rough.
So hell did something, main front line destroyed.
Yes, Antioch was annihilated, but it came back stronger because within 50 years they had created the walls of New Antioch, and New Antioch is still the home of the church and is still the point at which the forces of God fight back against the forces of hell. So whilst it was rough for a good 50 years there, Antioch, having been destroyed, is back and it's stronger than ever, which is amazing. There's also things like, it's not just Christianity. So there is obviously a lot of like Catholic Christian leanings within the game, but there are also like Islamic interests represented as well. So there is the Great Sultanate of the Invincible Iron Wall of the Two Horns that Pierce the Sky.
Wow.
Which is, I usually say that wrong because it's just a very long name. But
yeah,
that
that's
is
a mouthful of
effectively
a name, but very cool sounding.
There's a lot. They have some very cool stuff. Like that's one of their assassins. Absolutely incredible.
Yep, that's sick. Holy.
But they obviously again fight back against the forces of hell, and they are the central focal point where all the Islamic factions were unified. So you basically have a unified Islamic faction that is ostensibly on the same side as the Christian factions, but more in that you don't want hell to overrun the earth more than anything else, I'm guessing. So you have a couple of like really significant forces, with New Antioch being the home of the church. Then you've got the Great Sultanate, which is like the home of Islam. And then, of course, Jerusalem is the gateway of hell. And even within hell, there are multiple different factions. But there are a few things that kind of stand out in the overall timeline as to, it just kind of highlights how fun and how awful the setting is, in the fun way that, a lot of 40k is fun, but you wouldn't want to be there. So there is a mission in 1117 where 17 martyrs travel to the domains of hell that are on earth to convert heretics. And it goes about as well as you'd expect, because they were captured, they're being tortured, and they remain trapped within brazen bulls to this day.
Oh.
So that
love the brazen bull. Just love that.
given it's 1914, and they set out on their mission of conversion in 1117. They've had a very bad time and continue to do so indefinitely.
Oh man, that's rough. That's oof. That's all right. Cool. Also, I was going to ask real quick: is there any friction between the Sultanate and the Catholic leaning faction, or is it just like, well, it's hell, so it doesn't matter which one of us is really right? Hell is opened up. Who cares?
For the most part, in the Law Primer especially, there isn't that much mention of direct friction. It seems to be more just a survival thing, especially since the church itself has managed to do what happens a lot in a lot of kind of end of the world apocalyptic fiction, where they can't even stop fighting amongst themselves. So there was like a 90-year war where the church fought an internal conflict, which then just meant that demons, heretics, they managed to get a good foot in places they shouldn't, because the church was too busy fighting itself to fight the forces of hell.
Right.
Not great. Not ideal. But I feel like that happens a lot in a lot of that kind of fiction, doesn't it? Where it's a case of, we're holding out, someone's got greedy, and now everything's going wrong again.
Well, that's never happened in 40K. Like,
dude, that never happened in Boss Baby.
Fair enough.
It is the yardstick. So yeah, we talked about Joan of Arc defeating the hegemon of the Black Grail. She successfully drove the Black Grail out of mainland Europe, because in 1346, Beelzebub unleashes the Black Grail for the first time, and tens of millions are infected. So you got a nice bit of Black Death going on, except it's named the Corpse Wars, which gives an indication as to just how significantly awful that was for kind of the mortal people of Europe at that point. Anything called the Corpse Wars, awful.
Yeah, probably not good.
There's one of my favorite little references in the entire thing. It's a single sentence, and there is no further information. And I love this, is that about 100 years later, there is a single line that simply says, "The city of Argos is taken by God, and it is no more." That's it. That's all you get.
Oh. No indication of how, when, where, what. But
no,
it was just taken. Wow.
Yeah,
all right.
It's just taken.
Okay.
Which I really like, because there's a little line that people have had all sorts of arguments over for years in the Bible, where it refers to a man called Enoch who walked with God and was taken by God, but technically didn't actually die because he wasn't mentioned as having dying, even though most other notable figures do have some sort of mention of dying in the Bible. So it's like a fun little, I guess like a little reference to that sort of thing, which I quite like. And again, no further information. It's just the city was taken by God. But it's also worth remembering, biased and likely inaccurate. Was the city of Argos taken by God, or was it annihilated as a test run before Antioch gets destroyed less than 100 years later? Would the church own up to it? I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
Possibly not.
Okay, cool.
Cool. There's all sorts of fun inconsistencies in terms of weapons. So you've got things like bolt action rifles. You've got like old style muskets, even it mentions. You've got swords, hammers. You have things like anti-tank hammers, which is brilliant. Just an explosive charge on the end of a polearm. You just smack it against the side and hope that you don't get blown up at the same time. And nice. A lot of the stuff that kind of evens that out is the fact that Hell is able to produce metals that is kind of proof against missile attacks and the like, and the forces of God, or at least humans as a whole, also have that. So there is a war prophet called Angelos who is guided by a saint who discovers a formula for a specific type of steel called orichalcum steel, I think.
Orichallium. Oh, I always called it orichallium. It's like that's in like every like action game. Every JRPG has like orichalcum.
Like yeah,
like superior
kind of,
metal. Yeah.
Yes, which is hard to produce, but is good against missile weapons. So it needs to be used as much as possible. Then there's like a kind of you've got the kind of rebuilding of Antioch after that was destroyed, and there is the invention, and it's totally worth mentioning this. The invention of things like the first modern submarines were created in 1866. They might not have got away with that because they did, in terms of having that sort of development, you would need to have a bit of a breather. And they managed to get a bit of a breather because in 1805, they killed Admiral Nelson when they defeated the fleet of England, which makes me sad.
Damn, poor England.
Damn,
Nelson got done by heretics.
Nelson couldn't handle the Antichrist.
He couldn't hack it. He couldn't hack it against heretics. So,
actually, speaking of, is there an Antichrist?
I was about to ask that as soon as you said that. That's a good question.
Because currently, like, obviously in this world, not only is there plenty of Jesus, but there's plenty of Jesus's clones. Is there like an evil Jesus?
There's things like desecrated saints. There are demon lords who are incredibly powerful. So that's part of like the court of the seven-headed serpent. The court itself is effectively the top brass of hell. So it's the Infernal War Council. It's 7 of the most powerful archdevils, and each one represents one of the 7 mortal sins. But there's a lot of infighting and a lot of kind of jockeying for power and position. So it's one of the kind of core parts of the setting. Really, is that hell has the upper hand. Hell is kind of self-sustaining. They have demons and all sorts, but there's a lot of infighting and there's a lot of vying for personal power between the archdevils, because that's a core part of what makes hell. With the mortal sins being represented, they each want to be the most powerful. They each want to be the one that is on top of a certain circle, which just means that there's a whole load of backstabbing, of maneuvering. So hell is constantly fighting amongst itself, which is one of the core reasons that Earth hasn't really fallen to it yet.
Mm-hmm. That's like the big nerf that they have, is they're too busy fighting each other to really like fully take Earth.
The classic.
Nerfing themselves, yeah. They're like orcs. Also, God, that desecrated saint art is insane.
Yeah.
There's so much going on.
Yep. There's a
dude
lot
in there.
Yeah, there's a little dude in there with a tentacle going through his eyeballs. Like, it has tons of arms, the shattered off wings that are covered in chains and cloth, and all the what would those be that are on the chain? Like little
sensors?
Sensors, maybe? Yeah.
They look like
sensors and thuribles and
wait, and what's thuribles?
Yeah. So I guess it's
right.
I guess it's kind of, it might just be another word for sensor, to be honest, but it's the thing on multiple chains normally where you've got charcoal inside it and incense burning, and you swing it like it's specifically designed to be swung around to release a load of extremely like sweet incense smelling smoke everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Oh, huh. I thought that incense smoke was like the sensor was meant to be swung in general. So,
Yep.
It might be that it's just another word for the same thing. I've always known them as thuribles, and I didn't learn learn that it's a like similar thing until way later. I grew up, like I mentioned before, having grown up very religious. It was all like robes and smoke and singing everything, and a lot of the terminology was very specific. So, I've just Googled it. What's the difference between a thurible and a sensor? A thurible is understood to refer to a specific type of sensor, i.e. created from metal, often intricate in design, and hung from chains so it can be swung. So, apparently, pretty much the same thing, but kind of specifically designed to do a thing.
I'd only heard thurible from a very long-running game that we all used to play that trying to still shed.
Apparently 1999 is pretty good.
It is. I played it. It's pretty decent. It's kind of short and it turns into a big open world grind, but it's pretty good. The pseudo open world
opens up new Warframe expansion, looks inside, open world grind.
Yeah, it's another daily rep thing. Anyway,
they can't keep getting away with it.
Anyway, so how about Trench Crusade, huh?
Okay, so there's a couple of other things before we highlight just a couple of specific units that again really kind of hammers home the feel of the universe. There is the fact that in 1899 the church space program commences. So that's fun.
That's great. The church space program.
Yeah.
Words I never thought I'd hear.
In 1899 as well, which is only 29 years after the heretic submarine fleets launched from Gibraltar and caused famine widespread.
Those aren't words, Kyrioth. That cannot be an actual sentence. The heretic submarine fleets launched from Gibraltar. That cannot have been said ever before in the history. That is a new sentence.
Yeah, we are coming up with all new sentences here. We're breaking records, too.
Yep.
These sentences never been uttered before.
I'm going to give you another one. In 1907, the construction of the moving fortress of Britannia was completed. So that's another good one. And then we kind of get to 1914. There's a few other things dotted around, but it's worth going into going through step by step in the lore primer to properly get every little bit. But we're doing more of a general overview. So we're going to go to a couple of notable things when it comes to Trench Crusade. One of which being the Council of Saints. So we know that the Court of the Seven-Headed Serpent is the kind of head of hell. They are leading the demonic forces. They are the ones who say what happens and when in terms of invasions and attacks. There is an answer to this, which is the Council of Saints. So the Church has access to some remains. The remains of true saints. So you got the bones of Saint Barbara, the ashes of Saint John the Warrior, the severed hand of Saint Teresa of Avila, and a bunch of others. And sometimes
Holy fuck, I'm so sorry. I posted the wrong thing in the wrong chat.
I was about to ask what the hell was
I was sending
I was like, that. Ricky, what is that?
I have to give it to my editor for a video to launch. I have to give I'm so sorry. I was wondering why he wasn't responding.
I saw that link and I was like, that's clearly not meant for us. So I just ignored it.
That's so fun. I'm sorry to our viewers. I posted a sponsorship link in the wrong chat and it's just like, get War Thunder now.
I was like, I guess it's kind of adjacent, sort of.
I just posted right past it. I just saw it and I was like, I don't think that's for us. I'm just going to pretend it didn't happen.
I got stun locked for a second, and I didn't hear a damn word you said.
That's so funny. I'm so sorry. I was like, why? Okay, move on.
Yeah, sure.
Oh man.
So the Council of Saints, right? Isn't that what it was?
So,
and they've got some weird body parts.
They've got some relics, they've got some remains, and sometimes it's necessary for the church to directly talk to the saints, which you might think would be tricky because, I mean, one of them is just the hand of one of them, which of course would make things kind of difficult. Mm-hmm. But it's fine because they have a method. See, the church has something called the Synod of Strategic Prophecy. So a synod is effectively a council of bishops. So there's like a general synod for the Church of England every year is held where they discuss, important matters facing the church, so on and so forth. So the Synod of Strategic Prophecy is also responsible for the training of observers who are a warrior of the church who have been trained to hear the voice of God. And they have special equipment that allows them to kind of tune into the voice of God, which gives them the ability to kind of perceive things as they're about to happen. So they are insane warriors, but there is a downside where if they kind of lose concentration or kind of stop being able to focus on what they're doing, it doesn't go well because you can't just have the voice of God yelling at you. you've got to be able to tune it, and you've got to be able to listen to it and only get the information that you need, because you are hearing, presumably, since it's the voice of God, everything that God is seeing, has seen, will see, or, like it.
Oh, yeah.
The whole omniscient, omnipresent, capable
everywhere,
of being
at every time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they have to fine tune that like an AM FM radio, otherwise they hear everything and then like presumably their head explodes.
Yeah, it goes real bad. They're not allowed to sleep, because if they sleep, they will lose concentration. It's rough. It's rough being an observer. But the same kind of council that oversees the training of these, the Synod of Strategic Prophecy, they have a method of like establishing communication with the souls of the saints. So there's machines that they have tacticians plugged into, and the tacticians have to summon the saints so that they can speak to them. Mm. And sometimes it works, and they get a really weak connection. So the voices are just little whispers. Sometimes the saints just speak long forgotten languages, or, incomprehensible drivel that the scribes have to note down and then try and decipher. And the mental and physical strain of communing with the saints, and this is ridiculous, and I love it, ages the tacticians at the rate of 1 year per heartbeat, and they might not even succeed.
Whoa. So if you're communing with a saint, you gotta really need it, because you could potentially be aging one of your observers to death.
Well, the tactician is effectively the observer is like the battlefield role of a specific type of warrior. The tacticians are effectively just the best of those who can pull off that kind of tuning and that kind of prophecy and being able to discern possible futures and the like. And so if it goes wrong, even if it goes well, they age at the rate of 1 year per heartbeat. So it might not even go well. They might not even properly connect, and they would still have that side effect. So to actually talk to the saints and to consult the saints, you could wipe out a significant number of tacticians and get absolutely nothing.
Oof. So again, you gotta really need to talk to them.
You gotta really need it. Like
you
really,
can't just commune with them and be like,
it.
"Hey, sup? It's Christmas. Just wanted to say Merry Christmas. We're having some fake Jesus blood today. It was really good." Like, you gotta need it.
Just want to know how it's going up there. What's happening. So there's also the fact that some of the relics aren't even real. They're planted by hell. Some of them have been infected by devils who worm their way in through the eyes of the tacticians whilst they're trying to commune. It's risky. It's real risky.
So, did we already talk about the fact that is literally a recon droid from The Empire Strikes Back?
Oh, on the dude's head. It really does look like that, doesn't it?
It does.
I mean, like, I'm typing it in right now. Like, have we? The fact, I mean, we know this from Empire. It is literally, genuinely, basically identical.
That is
100% a recon droid.
I was thinking it looked like some sort of like recon droid, and I was like, oh, it's kind of cool having like the sci-fi and the medieval thing. I did not realize how absolutely close it was, and probably that might have been an inspiration for it.
I totally believe it was, but so when they commune with God or whatever, it takes like a long toll on their brain, like because of how long it is.
So when the tacticians speak with the saints, they just age at an insane rate, and that's if it goes well. The fact that there is the potential for some of the relics to be either fake or have been tampered with by demonic forces. Some of them will get possessed. There'll be, at times, the Lords of Hell will know, or at least they'll know when a council is in session, and so they will just go out and try and stop that from happening. So, like, it says that there are occasions where a fierce spiritual battle takes place in the skies above Rome, which burn with hellfire and flashes of holy light. So it's like, it's last ditch, basically. You have to train tacticians for years and years to be able to get them to the point where they can summon the soul of a saint and connect with them. And when they do, they age a huge amount in the process. And it's not just that they might not connect, but connecting is bad for them. They might also get ruined by demonic forces, having infiltrated. Death commandos will be sent to effectively disrupt the commune, and the death commandos are brutal and awesome. So that's the one that Shai posted. They have special armor that blinds them, or like blinds God to them. So they are hidden from the eyes of God. The death commandos, which again, hardcore.
That is hardcore.
Yes, so tacticians can't see them coming because they are completely blinded in the eyes of God.
They have like holy stealth generators or unholy stealth generators.
They're holy because like the soul or whatever is just not there in a sense. I wasn't sure. So you said it ages them like a long time. I wasn't sure because I thought you were going with Did you ever? This is a deep cut. Did any of you ever read the short story by Stephen King called The Jaunt?
Nope.
Yes.
Oh, you have?
It's really good.
It's really good. I mean, the long and short of it is humanity discovers teleportation. But when you're teleported, if you're awake, your mind experiences the entire like teleportation process, which is technically over the course of like maybe 1 million years of like in an instant. And so you are awake, conscious, but trapped in your own brain for like 1 million years.
Yeah.
In the span of a second.
That's awful.
It's real. It's real terrible. And then, you know, everyone who emerged on the other side is completely insane. But naturally. This one I thought was a similar thing where you commune with God. It feels like an eternity, but no, it ages you a ton.
Yes, it physically ages them to the tune of 1 year per heartbeat. So you've got to be snappy. You've got to be really quick in getting answers, because like if you take your time, the tactician will just effectively age to death, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, you take 1 minute, that's 60 years, right?
Yeah.
If you're assuming a second per heartbeat.
And you got to assume the heartbeat's going up a bit, right? The heart rate has got to be
true. As you get more and more nervous, you're like, dum, 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 dum.
Yeah.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, it really sucks. It really sucks. So yes, funnily enough, I was going to talk about the Paladins a bit. Before we do Paladins though, I just want to throw one more piece of art in, because it's obligatory to mention artillery witches.
Is that?
Yo, I cast 40 megaton bomb.
She looks so cool too, but something about holding the nuke there is just like, bro, how do I take you seriously?
I think you better start taking her seriously real quick.
True.
Yeah. One of my absolute favorite things from this universe. It's so good. So that's the artillery witch. They are from hell, shockingly. And they're mute. No one's ever seen one of their faces. People are not even sure if they're living. But what they do know is that they can pull an infinite number of infernal bombs from a portal to hell that they manifest at will.
Oh, no.
So they will just sort of move through the battlefield, raise a hand, summon a bomb out of one of the forges in the third circle of hell, and just lob it at someone.
That's incredible. Wait, so this is a heretic unit in a sense then, or?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Okay. That's well, okay, because I'll be honest, the way they're dressed, they don't look much different than the pilgrims.
Fair.
That's fair, yeah.
I love their drip though. It's so cool.
That's so funny, man.
So good.
They're just like, all right, here we go.
It's worth pointing out that they do have actual artillery pieces. So like hell has artillery that isn't witches throwing bombs like physically at people, but they do also have the artillery witch who can just summon a bomb. Just be like, I'm going to open a little gate into hell, pull a bomb out, off we go.
I almost wish the bomb looked a little different. Like, it's just something about like that big circular pill-shaped megaton bomb floating there just looks so goofy to me. Like,
See,
I almost
love it.
want it to be like
be honest,
more
yeah.
demonic looking. Okay, apparently I'm the outlier. That's fine. But
It's got some sigils on it. It's got some demonic sigils.
yeah, but I
carved
almost
into
want
the
it to
casing.
be like this, like pulsating, like circular thing that just looks very demonic, and it just, I don't know. It looks a little, I don't know. I don't love it. I love the witch. I love her drip. She looks phenomenal. I don't know. I don't love the megaton bomb, the very obvious pill-shaped bomb.
I think it's the grim, like the dark nature of everything else juxtaposed against the 80-ton bomb. I think that's where it gets hilarious to me. It's the fact that it's like, oh, like it's a witch. It's someone who's using magic to, like, I don't know. It's kind of the idea, like, I'm opening a portal to hell, and then through a portal of hell, like Satan's hand holding a 1911 comes out of the hell and like shoots you. Like, it's that kind of stupidity that I actually think it's fucking awesome.
It's hilarious. I will grant you it is, but yeah, I don't know.
All right. Yeah, this Luger will send a Christian to hell. I mean, I don't know. I adore. This might be my favorite unit so far.
I love it. I mean, I just feel like a part of it as well is I've kind of explained it away to myself of the idea of if hell and the church are doing an arms race, I kind of like the idea that they are feeding off each other in a way. So the idea of maybe hell having been on the receiving end of something like that and going, all right, well, we can build that, but we can have someone just pull it out of hell and throw it at you without having to move it. Why don't we do that? You can have your bomb back, except we'll have a mute woman throw it at you, and she doesn't even have to be resupplied because you can just open a portal. I kind of like it, the idea of it being they are seeing what the other one does and creating a newer version of it, which kind of makes it feel a bit more reasonable that hell are doing like things that look just like normal armaments.
Yeah,
hell is also like a reflection of humanity as well, and there's like all that side of things. So there are also like really weird, creepy things going on in hell that are so far away from that as well. Like we've already seen a couple of the Black Grail units, which are way, way different. There's all sorts of stuff that is very separate, but then you do also have that kind of inspired by humanity kind of look to some stuff, like the Praetor for the Court of the Seven-Headed Serpent. That is just mental. That is unlike anything that any of the kind of like the Trench Pilgrims or New Antioch has access to. It's just crazy. But at the same time, you've also got the Artillery Witch, and I like the mix.
I really like the Artillery Witch. It's like I read the flavor text, and it's like they stalked the battlefield, hurling ordnance assembled in the death factories of Hell's third circle. And it's just like it's just the like their infernal explosives appear in their hand from a gate of midnight blackness. I love how it specifically calls out they can pull an infinite number of infernal bombs. It's just like don't you worry, there's more of this shit coming.
When you put it like this is something that we've been bombarded with, it really sucked for hell, but we're gonna do it in our own little hellish flair. I'm a little more on board with that idea. Like they saw how devastating it was and like, ooh, me too. Bop.
That's kind of how I've looked at some of it, because it feels like kind of given the setting of it being kind of World War I-ish time, but with a huge amount of conflict leading up to it, and then there's kind of weird points where it doesn't line up with actual history, like a church space program in 1899 and stuff like that. It kind of makes it feel like more of a grounded arms race, even though it's obviously full of weird demons and 19-foot tall. In fact, mentioning 19-foot tall paladins, for instance. But Because, I mean, when things go wrong and hell starts to invade and they start throwing awful demonic entities at you, you need to find a way to fight back, right? You can't just have crusaders. They do have crusaders, and that's a whole thing as well. But you need something a bit chunkier. So you get the Paladin program, which is like the best, greatest creation of the Mentalist order of monks, who are essentially nearly perfect communicants. So we've seen communicants before. We've got the big chunky lad, and then we also had the skinny lad with the gun the same size as him. Those are communicants. Paladins are also communicants, but they have like the purest blood that the Meta Christ program was able to make. So they basically got the best blood from the best clones, as opposed to whatever the hell the other ones got that turned them into, absolute freaks of nature. So the Paladins are so strong and they are so pure and holy that they can enter the gates of hell and go on missions within hell itself and make it back out alive.
Okay, so got a little Grey Knighty Caldor type thing going on there.
Yeah.
But that's funny. And also I like the fact that Paladins are just these are basically just Paladins.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a dude with a sword and shield,
Yeah,
like
they've still got like traditional armaments for what a Crusader or a Paladin might have, like back in the day, and except they're massive and insanely strong and holy, and they can just wade into hell itself, which is incredible. So yeah, so that one, Gerin, Paladin of the Third Circle of Hell, bred from the genes of Christ and trained from childhood in the arts of war, he stands some 17 feet tall when arrayed for battle. I mean, quality.
Damn.
Oh, the blade's inscription reads, "God has numbered the days of your kingdom and brought it to an end. You have been weighed and found wanting."
Nice.
That's so good.
Yeah, that's really good.
Also, I love this style of armor that's like just has all these super intricate like inlays and carvings on it. It's such a vibe. I love that shit. Right into my veins.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
So there is of course a problem in that there were originally 12 Paladins, 2 died. One of them, people think they might have turned traitor, but the church says absolutely not. And if you say it out loud, you get killed because you're not allowed to slander the Paladins, which, fair, but they can't make any more. So the Holy Mentalist Order has not been able to make a new Paladin in 3 centuries.
Ooh.
So the ones that they've got are the ones that they've got. And they also can't find more of the material made to you, like to create their armor, their shield, their sword. So the suits of armor, despite being kept really, really well, are just getting destroyed.
Oh, that's why it's so rusty, because they literally can't make new ones. They can't repair it because they literally just none of it's left.
Yeah. It's impossible to fully restore it back to what it should be. Yes, so that's also worth pointing out. It looks like normal armor, but it's sealed and pressurized and powered. So even more like kind of superhuman, heavily armored. Definitely not like sort of your Space Marine style warriors.
I've been trying really hard not to boss baby this and not say it, but that's kind of cool though. I dig the whole lore behind them and why they look so rusted. Also, I really want to see what a heretic paladin looks like, especially with like the Trench Crusade like art style. I would love to see that.
I would like the rumor of it being a traitor to be true, so we could see art of that. That would be great.
100%.
I mean, it's a good thing they're pressurized, especially when they enter the church space program. They're going to need that when they go to space.
Yeah, when they set up a cathedral on the moon, they're going to need someone who's capable of
need paladins
surviving up there.
Listen, listen, Kirioth. God's domain is infinite.
Yeah. Oh god. Okay, so there's also it's not there's only 9. the armor's breaking down. It's also that when they go to hell, depending on which circle of hell they go to, of the 9, they each have their own environment and their own atmosphere. So the suits of armor that they have are specifically made to deal with that circle of hell. And there is one. And that's it. So if a paladin goes in and they go through the gates of hell and they know they're going to say the 4th circle of hell, they're wearing the armor appropriate for the 4th circle of hell. That means that if they go in and things start to go wrong, they know that they either succeed and walk out or they die alone. That's it. There is no support. There is no help coming. There is nothing that anyone can do. So they also get given the last rites before they leave, just in case they get killed in hell.
That's kind of crazy.
It's
awesome. So like this dude is only suited for like one specific ring of hell. Any other ring and he's not quite as good. Like is he still okay?
He wouldn't be able to
other
go
rings? Oh, he can't even go there.
No.
Oh.
It's literally each suit is specifically made for the corresponding circle of hell. So he is a paladin of the 3rd circle of hell. He is the only one of them that can go into the 3rd circle of hell because his armor is the only armor capable of dealing with that environment. So if things go wrong for him, he's done. No one can help.
So losing Paladins is such a big deal.
It's
it is
massive.
such an insanely big deal.
Yeah, and they're only used if the Council of Saints say that they should be used. So to even think about deploying one of the Paladins, you have to gather the Council of Saints and use the tacticians to commune with the Saints and hope that the Saints get a good connection, can actually help, that the tacticians involved aren't possessed by demons or end up being assassinated in some way, and that the ritual goes off well. Plus, there is also the fact that the Saints, they might be helpful, but they're not infallible. So they can advise, but the advice might not actually work, or it might be given as some sort of like revelation or some sort of declaration that is really difficult to decipher and work out what the meaning is. So even then, it's like you've got to go through this huge undertaking to decide whether to send a paladin in, and the paladins that they have left are dealing with equipment that is breaking down. So they are permanently under way more strain when they undertake their missions, because they end up, in awful pain the entire time whilst they're in hell because the armor's no longer perfect.
I also love how hell has like various layers of debilitating issues. Like, listen, man, this stuff will keep you safe in the circle of hell 1, but when you get to 4, no way.
No shot, yeah.
No shot. You're done.
Just don't even go near 4. You will actually just immediately die. You can only go to 1, or you can go to 1. Also, Garen's going to 3, so if you could both come back, that'd be nice. There's only 9 of you left, remember?
Yeah, well, there's also 2. Right?
Well, 2 dead, 1 missing, 9 currently alive.
No, to the 2nd circle of hell, I mean.
Oh, that's the thing. I want to know whether the armor from the ones that have died was recovered and whether those can be used. Because it specifically says that he is a paladin of the 3rd circle, which implies that that's the only place he undertakes missions. But could you take the armor off one of the fallen ones and send them into a circle of hell they're not familiar with? I don't think that'll ever be answered.
Could the armies of hell recover the armor and use it?
I mean, that would be kind of cool.
And like corrupt it with like one of their amalgam things and just fill it with...
Fill it with... Oh, you said amalgam. It's just an excuse to put this in.
Oh, wow. All right.
Let's go. Look at all of his guns.
Oh, look at all of his. Oh, boy.
That's an Iron Warriors creation if I've ever seen one right there.
Yeah. That's another Black Grail. That's the amalgam, and you can see what it does. You don't really need an explanation. You can just tell.
Yeah, that is that's a mm-hmm.
It's an amalgamation of a large quantity of holy shit.
Yep, agreed for sure. People, guns, tanks, swords, arms, many arms. Wow.
An actual emplacement on one shoulder. That's pretty fun.
That's true. That's true. We got some swords. His feet are a little flat, but that's okay, I suppose.
He's carrying a lot of weight, to be fair. There's a lot going on.
Hey, look, there's even a little arm holding a pistol under all those big ordnances.
Yeah,
there's a little guy holding a pistol.
I've never noticed that before.
There it is. Great. It's the 1911 from Satan's arm.
Is it? We found it.
We found it.
Yeah. Let's go.
I knew I could count on you, me.
Damn, that is disgusting, though. Holy. It's grim. It's really grim. It's super gross.
Yeah.
To be honest, I feel like having found the gun, that might be the place to call it for now, because there's so much. There's so much. We've seen a few units, and we've got a little bit of info on a few units, but there is... I mean, Bricky, if you've been scrolling through going through the playtest rules, with every one of the units, there's a little blurb of what it does.
Yeah,
and then you've got the rules that also shows kind of how they work. And there's currently 6 factions, with another one that's just had a bit more information given. So the Prussians are now a thing. And so you got lads like that.
The Prussians are probably the closest to like normal people I could think of so far.
Yeah.
Well, they live in a democracy, so they're doing something weird and different.
Oh no,
impossible!
Yeah, don't love those. Like compared to everything we've already seen, those are like they're not bad, but it's just man, we've seen some crazy shit so far.
Yeah, I mean, if it helps, the sword he's holding is an anti-tank sword, so.
You love the anti-tank sword. So this fool is just running up to tanks and just slicing them in half. All right, you win. They're cool.
Wait, hold on. Don't say fool now. We don't like. There's a reason that he has the anti-tank sword. He's clearly quite skilled.
Oh, fair enough.
You've got
that was a generalized fool. It wasn't like stupid.
It wasn't a targeted fool. It was just a generalized fool.
Yeah, just a generalized one. Yeah. All right, I'm on board with the anti-tank great sword.
I mean,
such a ridiculous concept. I love it.
I mean, for the most part, everything I have been like looking at and reading is pretty, like it's some of the classics. You know, it's all the usual things you basically showed me, and then the occasional weirdo stuff in between. And we covered most of the really interesting ones, but obviously they're adding more and more units with time. So
yeah, stuff's being added all the time, and there's kind of specific things when it comes to the Trench Pilgrims as a whole that we didn't really go into any full detail in terms of how the Trench Pilgrims get together, what they do, how they work, what the organizational structure is, and that's just one of them. There's also the Heretic Legions, the Iron Sultanate, New Antioch, and then you've got the Cult of the Black Grail and the Court of the Seven-Headed Serpent, where there's all like there's just more. Everything that we've touched on, there is more, and there just continues to be more because they update it constantly.
So I was curious, what exactly is like the timeline on Trench Crusade? Because like it sounds like they're really fleshing it out. It's going to be a tabletop game. Do they have tabletop rules? Do the rules look good, or is it still just very much like here's the world that we're building, here's what some of the units are going to look like, and like how far out is Trench Crusade?
So thanks to the Kickstarter, which I will just quickly get up, They got a lot on the Kickstarter, more than they asked for by quite a lot. I think they asked for $66,666, as is appropriate.
Let's go.
Naturally.
And they received 3.3 million.
Whoa. Little more than they expected.
So they got a decent amount, yeah. Right now there is the lore primer that you can get from the website.
Mhm.
They also constantly update their Discord with new artwork and new kind of lore snippets as well. And there's also the Trench Crusade playtest rules, which is, I think, version 1.5 currently. I think that's the most recent one, where they have got, they've got stats and stat blocks, weapon profiles, scenarios, all of that stuff laid out already in the test rules. And they already have a ton of miniatures sculpted. I think for the most part, the miniatures are either you can now print them yourself, or they are now in the production phase for physical miniatures. So you can already grab everything you need to play the game. Like, this is off the
Okay.
Kickstarter. So that's the Trench Pilgrims. Oh, what is that file?
An Avithith?
What is that?
Where's Ryan Gosling when you need him?
Epic embed failure, laugh at this user.
Yeah,
point.
It's Kickstarter doing the thing. Doing the horrible. Is that going to do the same thing? It is going to do the same thing. All right. Look, I'm just going to. There, you can look yourself. So they've already got a bunch of it sculpted. I think pretty much everything that they need to fulfill the Kickstarter they've already got. And because they raised so much, they're kind of moving production of other things up, but they're not going mad with it. So something that I have seen since the Kickstarter finished was occasionally people going, they raised a lot. I hope they don't, take on too much and end up basically breaking everything or burning out.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Star Citizen thing. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. No one wants that. But they're being like really sensible about how they're pacing things and how they are approaching expanding the game. They're not just diving into hiring a bajillion and one people and just, churning out as much as they can. They're trying to stick to a decent timeline where it's still, very well supported and you are still getting everything that you asked for and more, but they're not going absolutely crazy and just, promising the world. Instead, they're promising to keep the game going indefinitely, which
Right.
Yeah, you've kind of got everything you need already. Between the playtest rules, between the STLs, there's also something that is really nice is that they encourage kit bashing. So even though they have their own miniatures, and even though you pledged on the Kickstarter for the miniatures that they make, either in STL or physical form, they still consider it to be like a miniatures agnostic game. So if you wanted to get STLs from other creators, if you wanted to, I don't know, like get a bunch of Krieg or something and make them, adapt them to make them look like the Heretic Legion troopers, for instance, they are just like, make the thing you want to make to play the game that you want to play. That's fine.
That's so
Go
cool.
for it.
I love that. That's the way to do it.
So yeah, it's pretty damn cool. It's
Hell
like
yeah.
my new favorite thing. I've been really loving getting into Trench Crusade.
I will say I was taught a couple of the rules by that person I was chatting with in Texas, and I didn't understand like the concept they were going with, but like the blood tokens and stuff, which is a really cool mechanic. And there's a lot of like fun, just general vibes from that. I am curious, like if it's listening to some of the rules, I am curious if it's maybe a little bit too like by the whims of the dice. At times, like with the two dice type thing, Kirioth.
Yes, yeah.
But at the same time, I don't know.
Okay.
I think given the history of the rules writers, it feels slightly older in terms of like the design of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it kind of, it's more swingy, I think is the way to put it, but it kind of feels like it's just meant to be that way. So it doesn't bug me too much. And it does feel kind of crunchy as well. There's quite a lot to keep track of in certain aspects, but I don't know. It's also only a skirmish war game.
Right.
So you're not dealing with like full armies, 40k or AOS style. You're looking at like 20 models per side on the table, just about, and that's it. So there's like a lot going on, but you're not having to apply it to a huge number of models, if that makes sense.
No, that's true. It was a lot of like some of the general, like I could see a couple spiked rolls getting pretty nasty. But I mean, a skirmish games. I mean, have you played a few games yet? Like, how long does it take you? Like an hour?
I've played 2 so far, and both of them were. The first one was a bit longer, but I think the second one was about hour and 10, something like that.
Okay, so once you get the rules kind of down, probably around an hour to 45 minutes, give or take, depending.
Yeah, pretty much. Having cheat sheets out is what we did as well. Just stuff that we kind of in advance were like, is that going to trip me up? Yes, probably. Okay, well, it's printed out and it's right there, so that's fine.
Do you think it would be easy for someone who's never played a tabletop game to get into? Because, like, I don't know, with me and like 40K, it always feels a little daunting because there have been 10 editions and there's so many minis and there's such big armies and they need to be painted and this and that. And it always feels very daunting. And I always get sidetracked from painting my army. Do you think this would be like a good one for like a tabletop starter to actually get it? Because it sounds like it's small skirmishes, rules may be a little complicated, but they're quick. Maybe like not too bad for someone to just first tabletop experience?
I'd say probably having a bit of experience in something else would be helpful, but you know what? I think you'd probably be okay. I think it's a case of especially with like any new game, really going through and picking out stuff that you feel in advance that you're going to have a bit of an issue with. Making sure to have that stuff like readily on hand, because the basics of it are pretty easy to pick up. It's more kind of there's like a whole thing of minor hit, down, out of action. There's like an injury chart and stuff like that, which seems daunting, but once you get into the flow of it, it's really not that bad. I think you'd probably be all right.
Because man, they're like so far this Trench Crusade stuff looks really fucking cool, and I'm just like. It'll
grab you. It'll grab you. That's the thing. The artwork is so good and the concept is really fun. And I mean, I especially just, there's so many little things that I just kind of see and go, the detail, the little tiny detail. It's so nice. It's so nice to see the little tiny detail. But at the same time, God took a city and there's no information about it. And I love that contrast. That's great.
Yeah, man, it's really dope.
I feel like people have like kind of exhausted a lot of their stuff when it comes to World War II. It's such a darn common one, and I think people yearn for the World War I shenanigans again, and we're getting it, but we're also getting it with like a million Jesus, and that's just great.
Yeah, and we're getting demons and hell knights and
Lord of Tumors.
Yeah, I love a bit of. No, we don't. No, I'm going to shut up.
No, we sure don't.
No,
we sure don't love tumors. Nope. Hate that shit. So,
is that the third controversial statement of the video? We love tumors.
It's the classics.
Yeah,
no, it seems really, really cool. I think I might see about getting some. I know one of my buddies named Garrett. He's super into it as well, and so. I know he's super excited about it, so I definitely think we'll probably have to play a few games of it to kind of test it around and see what's up. And then, especially with the minis, like look at that dude, he's collecting the fluid. What the hell is that? Is that dude drinking it?
Ew, he is. Oh,
I told you they love the tumors. There's even a Lord of Tumors.
Oh God! All right, get me out of here.